What's up everyone and welcome on back to the channel. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning comes out on May 23rd. This movie franchise has been going on since 1996. We've seen Tom Cruise run a lot. We've seen him with long hair. We've seen him with short hair. We've seen him go back to long hair again. The biggest stunts of all time have been done in these movies and will leave a lasting legacy in all of film. And even though this franchise has been absolutely phenomenal, I think it's time for it to end, but I don't think Paramount will allow that, even though they should. So I wanted to dive into this series, why it needs to end, and detail why Paramount will likely not let it go, based off of their past actions. But before we get into all of that, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I put out new videos every single week diving into the film and TV industry, analyzing trends and analyzing film news, and I love to have you there. Please also don't forget to like this video as well. It really does help push out these videos into the algorithm and find more people like yourself. So thank you so much for being here, but let's get into it. Mission Impossible started off as a film series back in 1996, but it should be noted that it was not always a film series. It was originally a TV series on CBS from Desilu Productions that ran for 7 seasons and was briefly revived for 2 seasons in 1988. And making controversial decisions with Mission Impossible is not new to Paramount. Back in 1996, it was deemed controversial to bring in the character of Jim Phelps, who was the leader of the 1966 TV series, and in the first movie, they made him the main villain who betrayed the IMF. The original actor Peter Graves was offered the role too, but turned it down because he felt that it betrayed the original character, and many old cast members from the original show hated the 1996 movie. It was also going to treat the show way worse than the original draft of the script than what was actually produced. Originally, they weren't going to just bring back the character of Jim Phelps, but they were going to bring back all of the original characters from the TV show and then kill them all off in the opening mission. But that was deemed way too controversial, and it was deemed that it would piss way too many people off. Sherry Lansing details a lot of this in her book Leading Lady. She was the CEO of Paramount at the time and goes in depth into rebooting this series. Definitely check it out if you're interested. It really details how the film world worked in the 1980s and the 1990s, and how things started changing around the mid-2000s in film, and why she left. It's all really interesting. Highly recommend it. So Paramount does make these controversial decisions surrounding this franchise, but my guess is they will go even further, and after The Final Reckoning comes out, they will continue to milk this franchise after this movie, with or without Tom Cruise, because if you look at their history of dealing with this franchise, they've been wanting to do this for many years. Back in 2010, Paramount cast Jeremy Renner in Ghost Protocol to potentially take over the series should Tom leave, or if Tom was deemed to be unsuitable to lead the franchise anymore. And remember, this was back when Tom Cruise was jumping on couches deep into Scientology and was still seen as a controversial star despite giving us the best dance moves ever put on screen. Now, Jeremy Renner does deny these claims in an interview in 2024 where he states that it was always going to be Tom Cruise's show and he was supposedly never going to take over.
Like you were going to inherit the mantle.
No, that's always Tom's show. I think that would be a Tom decision if you ever wanted to change that narrative, right?
But grain of salt here, it took him 14 years to deny these claims after he already stepped away from the Mission Impossible franchise, which tells me there might have been some truth to these reports, especially since the decision makers are the executives and they're not Jeremy and they're not Tom Cruise even. And also, just a funny side note, while I was researching for this video, the comments on the 2010 article detailing Jeremy Renner's casting are absolutely hilarious, and it really is a sign of just how much things can change in a short amount of time. They say this franchise is beneath Jeremy Renner. Mission Impossible is a brain-dead franchise and they should put him in something good like a Jason Bourne movie. That worked out pretty well. They say there's not one person who wants a Mission Impossible movie, and they also say this franchise is dead in the water. And now Mission Impossible is seen as saving cinema. I really love the internet. Never change, guys. So not only did they apparently try to find a new potential replacement for Tom Cruise, but they also tried making Mission Impossible into a streaming show on Paramount Plus. Back in 2022, it was reported that Paramount tried to make this into a streaming show for Paramount Plus and return it back to its TV roots. But Tom Cruise said fuck that. He may not have had all that much say back in 2010 because of his past, but now he does. You do what Tom says, Paramount. Paramount clearly wants to do something more with this franchise. They are running out of franchises that can be like a Marvel, which is kind of what they want, and they have been chasing, despite them actually having Marvel back in 2008. Transformers isn't doing well despite their actions to expand it, and it's also not theirs, it's Hasbro. Same with G.I. Joe. There hasn't been a Star Trek movie since 2016, and their shows, they are doing okay on their platform, but it is no way the same relevance as it was back in the day, and it's not the cinematic crossover universe that they want. They also have the Ninja Turtles, which they are slowly figuring out, but it is nowhere near the billion-dollar cinematic universe franchise that they want. But thank God that they actually found Sonic, right? That studio might not have the lights on if it wasn't for that hedgehog. But Paramount clearly wants this franchise to do more, and I understand it just a little bit. They want to expand this franchise since everyone has a franchise, and the Mission Impossible films, they aren't even insanely profitable. The highest grossing one was Mission Impossible Fallout, which grossed $790 million, but it was not a billion-dollar movie. That's the one I worked on, by the way. Coincidence? This is the crew jacket, by the way, if you don't believe me. I did work on this. Here's also a photo of me and Tom. And also, these films are very difficult to make. They cost a lot of money. Tom Cruise is probably very hard to insure since he does all of his own stunts, and in Fallout, he did break his ankle, which put production on hold. And I'm assuming insurance had to pay for all of that. And there are more signs that point to Paramount and Tom Cruise potentially parting ways, since Tom Cruise signed an overall deal with Warner Brothers back in January of 2024. Though it should be noted that Tom can still develop Mission Impossible movies and even Top Gun movies at Paramount, but it does signal that Tom might be over Paramount and split with them as he once did in 2006. So it's not crazy that they're trying to expand this without Tom Cruise, since the movies are very difficult to make and Tom is now sleeping with David Zaslav. But Tom Cruise is Mission Impossible. You can't do this without him. Let's be real, no one comes to these movies for the plot. They're kind of the same movie over and over again. Either Tom Cruise is betrayed and then the IMF thinks that Tom is actually evil and he needs to prove that he's not, which this happened like 3 times, and 3 times he's proved he's not evil again and again. Obviously he's not betraying the IMF. You know, Jim Phelps really did leave a mark on the IMF. Or the plot is a MacGuffin that gets taken and he has to get it back. Those are the 2 plots. People aren't coming to this movie for the plot. They're coming because Tom Cruise is risking his life for my sheer entertainment. It's very well documented how much of the craft of stunt work and filmmaking goes into these movies. That's all they use in their marketing now. People aren't coming to these movies for some crazy character development or how the plot has something profound to say about the world. We're watching to see Tom Cruise almost die every single movie, as well as the cameraman. That man doesn't get enough credit. No actor is doing it like Tom Cruise. No actor does their own stunts like Tom Cruise. There are some actors, sure, like Keanu Reeves, but not on the scale of Tom Cruise. Until Glenn Powell straps himself to a goddamn plane as it takes off, these movies should not be made anymore after The Final Reckoning comes out. And Tom and longtime franchise director Chris McQuarrie have stated that this is not the end, and he still wants to continue this until he's 80, likening it to Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones. Not the best comparison in my opinion. The Dial of Destiny actually made me yearn for the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but as we've learned from these comments back in 2010, we should not doubt Tom Cruise. But I sincerely hope that Paramount lets this franchise be cemented as one of the greatest action franchises known to man and not continue this franchise. I don't think that will happen, especially since Skydance is taking over and there will be a complete regime change, and with that comes crazy changes. But I just hope they don't. That is until 80-year-old Tom Cruise decides he wants to come back for one more final mission, which is actually pretty close. The dude is 62. We're only 18 years away from this. But let me know what you think about all this. Do you think this is truly the end of Mission Impossible? Do you think Paramount will continue with or without Tom Cruise? Or do you have something else to say? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And once again, please don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you haven't already. Until then, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.